Hey there, what's going on? This is your neighborhood Sensei Fouché, live in effect. And yeah, I don't know, I'm driving and I had some things on my mind as usual when it comes to political, social, you know. And we have a lot of stuff going on in general. I know the states of America just invaded and bombed the heck out of Venezuela and captured the president, so on and so forth, and all this propaganda and hypocrisy, you know, in these so-called accolades and all of that, you know what I'm saying? And it's really just a lot of generic dumb of immature people, and that makes a whole lot of sense to me, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, you know, the thing that I was just thinking of that's most interesting is the contradiction. Contradiction is an ugly word in the face of people that lack transparency and disclosure. Like, their whole life is about secrets, you know what I'm saying? And having double standards and basically being two-faced, you know? So when we talk about these, you know, MAGA people, you know what I'm saying? And it's the motto and, you know, the ideology behind the messaging, those things don't match. And that's the really the dumbest, I'm gonna just say it straight, that's the dumbest thing about this whole MAGA thing and these so-called conservative, and you know what I'm saying, I'm not a liberal, like, straight up, and I'm not conservative neither. Like, to me, all of those are just terms to define or excuse, you know, an extreme group of people. You know, they use these terms as to defend themselves, but do they really understand what these things mean, and does it make complete sense into describing specifically who they are? And when you go down to the root definitions of these words, it really doesn't hold a lot of weight. You know what I'm saying? Because humans are a mix of a lot of different types of emotions, and not everybody blends together completely to where they agree 100%. There's always some difference to where you're not going to agree. So then how do you define that between the two of you as conservative or liberal? You know what I'm saying? And I'm on occasion, I know just recently, like, I was checking out, you know, the dating app, you know, on social media. And when you look at these dating apps and look through these dating apps, and then I see, you know, I'm conservative Christian, and, you know, if you are liberal, like, don't contact me or don't waste your time. And I'm like, how conservative are you? Like, you over here, no different than Kristi Noem, the defense secretary in the States of America. And you have this very superficial way of portraying yourself out in public. You know, with all this makeup and your hair done, and, you know, like, in traditional conservatism, you don't fall in line. You know what I'm saying? Or any of these women like that with these, you know, liberal ideas, these liberal conservative women. And that's just straight up, because these women are realistically, like, not so far right as they say or think. And if they had a man so far right and conservative as they say that they are, like, they wouldn't be with them. Nah, you can't wear any makeup, and, you know, you can't have a career, and you need to stay at home and mind these kids, and you can't go nowhere, and you can't socialize, you can't have any friends. Like, that's really the conservative label that you so-called, that you put out there, that you say that you represent, but you know you really don't represent that, because you have a higher level of liberalism within your so-called conservative thinking or your conservative lifestyle. So it's BS. It doesn't hold water. It's dumb and it's not true. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I had like a rant about, are these, so-called conservative Christian MAGA people or women or whatever. And I'm like, you really sound dumb. And it's really not true. And you're really just, bigoted, prejudicial, and full of hate. You so-called hate on transgender and gay people, that doesn't follow, the law of God. Like, they're not godly, but the teachings of Jesus says love everyone, you know what I'm saying? But then, you want to be so judgmental about people that choose a different sexual practice or relation of gender opposed to you. And that's gonna, stain and, confuse and collide with your lifestyle, like, your children wouldn't have their own opinions of value. And if they did have an opinion of value different without, being amongst these type of people, then you're gonna try to make them feel ostracized and have a high level of anxiety and because of the extreme prejudice that they have to be around, and they're going to wind up being damaged individuals without directly being around those people, and you're basically trying to force them into being something they're not and convince them that they're wrong for thinking the way that they do. And that makes you the abuser, right? So in reality, your ideology and thinking in truth is more in line of hate and abuse. When it all comes down to it, if people don't agree with you, you won't agree to disagree. You're just going to be abusive in the manner of how you want to choose to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's my little 7 and 30-minute rant, plus now since we crossed over. But other than that, until I have a next moment to be able to share a moment of laughter and frustration, I'm going to tell all y'all to be smooth in unity. 1.